Now let's move on to the second question. So the second question is, how does your product engage with audiences and how would it be distributed in terms of if it were a real media text? So first I want to talk about the genre of my magazine and how did I come up with that genre and how did I choose it. So the genre of our magazine is an article based magazine. It's a journalistic magazine intended for general interest but also specialized readers. So while the topic of education is something that everyone can relate to, the topic of illiteracy and what the information that I talk about is something that is special interest, and I've kind of dumbed it down and summarized into things that general interest readers can understand. So that is the overall genre of this magazine. At the end of the day, why did I choose this genre and this topic specifically? Because when you analyze Pakistan and the social issues that plague Pakistan, they're honestly simply too many. There's poverty, there's child labor, gender norms, all of these things. But what is the root cause of all of these issues? I believe that the root cause of all of these issues is illiteracy and, in fact, the lack of educational infrastructure that provides kids with opportunities. So when you're a child, you simply do not go to school, you don't have the sort of educational opportunities that kind of translate into you not having economic opportunities and being stuck in this cyclical cycle of poverty your entire life. So while I knew that that is the root cause, I did want to legitimize it and did want to do some sort of primary and secondary research that would tell me how and if this issue is very relevant or is it not. In order to legitimize the idea that our topic is relevant, we did a lot of surveys. The first thing that we did was kind of go around our school and go around our community with like handwritten paper surveys where we asked them specific questions about what are their thoughts about like illiteracy within Pakistan, what is their estimate of people that are actually can read and write within Pakistan. So we firstly did like word-based, word-of-mouth-based, paper-based surveys. Then we moved on to more sophisticated surveys such as Word documents, then translated into like Google documents, and then we also went ahead and created an Instagram page where we did Instagram polls on our personal profiles but also profiles on a public page to understand the survey response and feedback of the general populace that are intended to read this magazine. So essentially, what does the target audience say? That is something that we did research on. So the second question, how would I distribute this magazine if it were a real world magazine? So before even distribution, I would like to have a keen knowledge of what my audience actually is, and I would like to know who my target audience is. Before even like seeing my target audience, I would also engage within research of media theories and audience theories to really understand how the audience work. So one specific example of audience theory that comes in my mind is the hypodermic needle theory, which essentially suggests that the audience is a passive medium and you can use media to shape or weave a narrative that would change the audience's opinion. And that is essentially a theory that I would incorporate in my magazine while creating a very, very strong narrative within my magazine, a very strong narrative regarding illiteracy. I would like to shape the audience's opinion and also provide them with information necessary to make a valid and informed opinion. So how would I then maximize the distribution of my post and how would I maximize the distribution of my magazine? I did it in two ways. The first was purely online. So if you notice within the status quo that the New Yorker or the Times, all of these popular magazines do have an online format. So on my blogs, the essential pre-production thing that I did was add a lot of behind the scenes, add a lot of sneak peeks, add a lot of things that are hinting at the overall cause of my final magazine, and that is something that I did in order to engage within my audience. Then on the second level, I would send email posts, I send social media posts, I post countdown posts and give and monetize early access to that magazine if I were to do it in the real world. So that is how I would utilize the online world to the full potential, and I would utilize the elements of marketing to distribute my magazine to a globalized audience, not specifically to Pakistan but to the world in order to have max distribution. Moreover, in the online spectrum, I would engage within public relations with different sort of activists who are interested within the education industry and who are activists who are people who would like to be a part of the cause. So I would have them post the magazine on their stories. I would also be creating posts on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, and TikTok. So at the end of the day, I would be maximizing my productivity and the productivity and distribution of my magazine through online mediums and reach a globalized audience that are not specifically limited to the geographical ramifications of Pakistan, but throughout the world. Because when you understand the idea of illiteracy, it's a globalized issue, and I would want to capitalize upon that if I were to distribute this magazine within the real world. In terms of real world distribution, I would distribute the print version of this magazine in like a following few ways. One, I would definitely go to bookstores and give them my magazine for free and ask them to keep that magazine in case people want it. I would also give these to cafes on the second level, on the third level, go to lounges where they have like waiting areas. So whenever they need magazines, I would give my magazine to them and ask them to include it in their collection. So whenever the audience is or whenever the people are waiting, they can go through that magazine and be engaged by the eye-catching cover photo. On a fourth level, I would also drop it down to schools and allow the students the schools to actually read that magazine. I would circulate that magazine within my own schools. I would give it to, on a 5th level, to hotels, and on a 6th level, I would also do collaborations with NGOs where I would ask them to distribute that magazine, and I would ask to introduce their stories within my magazine, so I know that I'm reaching maximum amount of people.